الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So tonight, inshallah, the discussion will be about breaking bad habits. And this is something that I'm sure all of us suffer from and suffer with to some extent, some habits being worse than others. And this is a wonderful opportunity, especially to engage, my beloved brother Abdul Malik on this issue or in this topic specifically. So maybe I can open it up with a question and ask. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What are you asking for? Oh, the phone. I don't think it's home. Actually, where did I do it? Oh, it's in the car. Yeah, it's at home. Here, if you can take Maria home, I'll unlock the car and you can get it from the car.
Is it charged?
It is charged. Inshallah.
I'm coming back.
Okay, just message me when we get there.
Coming back.
Yeah, come back with her. So the question we wanted to open with this evening is, why is self-discipline and habit formation so important in Islam?
Do we want mic?
Yeah. Do we need to?
No. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم اجمعين. Why is self-discipline so important? I think we have to realize that anything in life that we want to accomplish will only happen if we have some level of discipline. And we understand that in every domain of our lives. Professionally, you know that you have to go to college, which is really difficult, 4 years, perhaps even have a graduate level degree. You know that you have to have internships. You know that you have to make good relationships with your supervisors. You have to mingle. You have to do these things. That's understood. You know that if you want to be married, for a long time, inshallah, you have to invest in a relationship. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to struggle. It's all really difficult, but you have a long-term goal in mind. Why is it that spiritually we don't understand that in the same way? And so why is self-discipline really important? Because that is the only way that we're going to be able to be consistent with something for a long period of time and able to grow and develop in whatever domain that's going to be. So that's going to have to be something that we're conditioning ourselves, that we're now analyzing ourselves, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. We're going to have to be constantly fine-tuning and adjusting so that we can have the optimal development for whatever is that we're trying to do based on the circumstance we find ourselves in.
So I guess that leads me to the second question is, all right, why is consistency so important? Why can't I just do things randomly?
Well, you can. And there's nothing wrong with doing things randomly. But realistically, you're not going to be able to grow or sustain the level of success that you're trying to achieve by doing random things. Random acts, unless it's through the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us to be able to achieve something, usually don't amount to one complete project. Random acts will perhaps allow us to do a certain number of things, but if we're trying to build toward a particular goal, or we're trying to build towards something complete, then we're going to have some level of consistency and some level of continuity in the things that we're doing to achieve whatever it is we're going to do. Because most things require sustainment and building in order to reach one complete thing. Or usually can't say, I'm going to be successful in my career, so I'm going to do one thing that's going to allow me to have that continue. I have to continuously sustain whatever I'm trying to do with sub-goals and smaller things to achieve that larger thing.
Do you think it would be feasible to argue that Islam actually pushes for regularity and consistency in things? So, just a few examples. When the prayer times were obligated, the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, did they in general pray at fixed times? Like, so today, when we go into the masjid, what is one of the first things we see when we walk into that masjid? We see the prayer times. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they obviously didn't have watches. But if you ask the companions, okay, well, when did you pray Dhuhr? Or when did you pray Fajr? They would still time it, saying that, oh, I would be able to recite X number of ayats between the adhan and the iqamah. Meaning that there was a sense of regularity.
Mm-hmm.
And even after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, immediately what started happening was they put the Quran in the form of a book. And you have people who argue saying that, okay, well, no, the moment when you try to introduce regularity into something, you're doing something against the prophetic model. I'll say that again. If I choose to set aside every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Because I have a gap, like in my work schedule, to do adhkar or to make dua, they're saying that that regularity is problematic, and the sunnah is actually to be random. What do you think?
I think the problem with that, so yes, I think Islam does encourage consistency and regularity with things, to answer the question. We have 5 daily prayers. The goal is that we have khushu' in our prayer. We have tranquility. The goal is that we can be like some of the Salaf. When they would pray, they'd be in another world. They could have a bird perched on their shoulder, they wouldn't recognize it. They need to get a wound cauterized, they could do it in prayer because their khushu', their focus is so deep that they're not realizing what's going on around them. While that may be a goal, the only way that one can achieve that is through a level of love and a level of connection that is only going to be built except through miraculous intervention through consistency. I'm going to have to pray, work on my khushu', work on my form. In fact, I would argue that many of us don't even allow ourselves to do that because we get caught up in the rules. I'm in my hands in the right place, my back, and now I have disenabled myself. I'm so focused on those rules that I haven't even got to the next level of connection or khushu'. But anyways, to the second part of your question, well then what does that mean about regularity? Regularity is a tool that would allow me to then build those other things. And the regularity that I'm doing is not that I think is a part of the deen. I don't think that if I'm making a special dhikr in the morning or I do a special habit on Wednesdays or Thursdays, whatever it may be, that is a part of mashru', a legislated thing in the religion. This is something to help me have some consistency.
Okay.
And if I were to do it in other times of the year, I mean, how controversial do you want to get? If I were to do it in other times of the year, maybe I'll even call it the same thing, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the initial thing that was called.
Sure. I guess adding to that as well is, well, I mean, weren't there a lot of practices introduced during the companions after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ?
Yeah.
So today, when we read the Quran, how many parts do we divide it into? You guys know?
30.
30 parts, absolutely. Do you guys know why 30? Like why that number? Basically, the idea is to develop a consistency that I read it every single day. This is neither prophetic, nor is it from the companions. The companions didn't have 30 parts. You know how many parts they divided their Quran into? 7. Why? What do you think? If it takes us 30 days to finish, they would want to finish it in 7 days. Again, this is not a prophetic injunction. Right? He didn't tell them how much or how little Quran to read. He told them to engage with it. So if we understand that there are certain things that allow and develop this consistency, immediately after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, you found the companions imposing this. The salah times only became more organized. Their engagement with the Quran only became more organized. And even sitting down and doing separate adhkar on a personal level became very organized. Are there prophetic times to do different adhkar? Yes, absolutely. Like what? When is a good time for me to do dhikr? When the Prophet ﷺ did? Like when? After salah. Ahsan, perfect. That's a beautiful time. What other times? That's it. These are the only time you guys know how to do dhikr? Yes, Abdul.
Between adhan and iqamah.
Between the adhan and the iqamah. Excellent time to make dua, excellent time to make dhikr. Shuruq. right? When the sun rises, the excellent time to make dhikr. These are all prophetic injunctions and all prophetic models of when an individual should make dua, when an individual should make dhikr. طيب. The beauty of this is that you have the Prophet ﷺ, he has two types of ibadah that he taught us. He says those which are restrictive. Can I decide, you know what, I feel like making my sunan, I'm going to make 3 rakat for Salat al-Dhuhr. The sunan, I'm not even talking about the fard. Can I do that? No. The Prophet ﷺ said, Salat al-Layl masna masna, right? And you do qiyas on this, analogy on this, that the prayer, the sunan prayer, can only be prayed in twos. It can only be prayed in pairs. If I want to do my own dhikr, some that we know from the Prophet ﷺ, Subhana Rabbil A'la, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. Yes, we all know these. What if I say something like Ar-Rahman Hul Akbar or Rahman Al Akbar? Did I say anything wrong? No. I'm allowed to engage in that way because the Prophet ﷺ, like I said, we have structured and we have unstructured. The unstructured worship are those which He Azza wa Jal has given us space to show our creativity and show our meaningful engagement with Him Azza wa Jal. Dua is probably an easier example, one that is easier for us to relate to. Do we ask for everything that the Prophet ﷺ asked for? No. Right? If I'm asking for a job for a particular company, I can guarantee, right? I can guarantee that He ﷺ didn't ask for that. Or for some of us, asking for a particular spouse, right? Allah, ya Allah, allow, facilitate for me this spouse. He ﷺ for sure didn't ask for that. Just like we're allowed that creative freedom in these spaces, we're also allowed creative freedom in when we're allowed to make that worship. Which brings us back to consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think are some of the best ways for me to develop that habit?
Are we saying specifically in religious things or just in general?
Let's start with religious. That's the priority, right?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to build consistency in things is to first do some level of self-accountability, some level of muhasabah, to recognize where is your baseline, what things worked for you in the past, what things were triggers for you to deviate in the past, what ways are you going to be able to, what things helped you moving forward in the future. You need to set a baseline, a level of self-awareness, so that from there you can build. Because again, if we're trying to do things random, if today I'm like, you know what, I'm going to read the whole Quran today, then maybe I'm someone who engages the Quran so much that I could be like that dude on Instagram who read the whole Quran in 1 rak'ah. Maybe. If that's my normal habit, I might have the energy to do that.
It's not like the guy who read 3 books in like 11 seconds?
No, that guy's amazing. He's got superpowers. So we need to do a level of muhasabah, a level of self-accountability to recognize where we are, to see what is going to likely help us be successful. But from that, we also get to recognize where we should put the most priority, most effort. I shouldn't be trying to fast the fast of Dawood every other day if I don't fast at all. And I shouldn't be trying to fast every other day if I don't pray my 5 daily prayers. There has to be some level of baseline. I shouldn't be trying to give a bunch of sadaqah when I didn't pay my zakat. And so we need to start with the things that are most obligatory for us to do and make sure that we're building a level of consistency in that. Our 5 daily prayers, fasting month of Ramadan, paying our zakat, but then also staying away from things that are objectively haram, fornication, drinking alcohol, lying, cheating, stealing, backbiting, those things. And then adding on top of that, things that are supererogatory. And so I think if we're going to try to build up some consistency, we need to first have some level of accountability, recognizing who we are, what has worked historically, what is working right now, and then what are we going to be able to do for long-term sustainability. So for example, inshallah, somebody in the room is going to finish the Quran in the khatam this Ramadan. Somebody. I have husnul dhan, one body in the room is going to do at least 1 khatam. Is that our norm? Realistically, are we going to be able to sustain that post-Ramadan? No. But that does show that we have the ability to read the Quran every single day. So maybe I scale back to half a juz. Maybe I scale back to a quarter of a juz. But I still should take some of it and then develop onto what I usually do. Hold on. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is the first step is self-recognition. The second step is building that baseline by understanding the obligations. And then the third step is now build on that by adding those extra deeds. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. Yes, but the third part is accountability, establishing a baseline, having a goal.
Okay.
Because if we don't have a goal, then I can't reverse engineer. I can't figure out how I'm going to be able to build to that thing. So if my goal is to engage the Quran every single day, then I can say, well, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 5 pages, maybe it's 1 line. My goal is just to read.
Sure.
If my goal is to do a khatm of the Quran in 2 months, then I know I have to do half a juz every single day, so that in 2 months' time, I will finish the Quran. If my, etc. You see what I'm saying? So we need to have a goal, so then I can reevaluate what are my priorities and how am I going to achieve that. Because again, if we're talking about consistency, consistency is something that we're doing consistently. And I need to figure out what that amount is going to be so that I can do it.
Okay. What if I fall short? So if my goal was to do a khatam in 2 months, right? I'm supposed to do half a juz today, like every day, and I'm noticing myself starting to slip, right? I was strong for a couple weeks, and then I can clearly see my downward slide. What should I do at that point?
That's a good question. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to be graceful with ourselves. Be gracious, not gracious. We should be gracious with ourselves. Yeah. And recognize that al-kamalu lillah. Perfection is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Humans were created weak. And recognize it's not the end of the world. As long as we're not talking about our wajibat. We're not talking about the things that are obligatory for us to do. If I find myself falling back in my salah, I'm not praying, I'm not waiting for Fajr anymore, then I need to say, khalas, pull yourself together. I should be a little bit more harsh on myself, because that is something that if I had a habit of doing that, I shouldn't let that go. But now let's say it's something that is not obligatory, something extra that I'm trying to do in my deen. Tayyib. First, be gracious with ourselves. Secondly, maybe we need to reevaluate. Maybe I over a bit more than I could chew. I said I wanted to finish it in twice a month. Realistically, I'm in school, my family commitments, my work commitments, whatever it is. Maybe I can only do a quarter. I was overly ambitious. Or maybe I didn't prioritize as much as I thought it really needed prioritization. I thought I could just wing it whatever time throughout the day. I didn't set a specific time. I didn't set a specific amount. I just said, inshallah. Maybe I need some more priority. I need to figure out where the lapse is happening. So let's be very, very real. I know for me, I have to plan in recovery days. Just like the gym, emotionally, mentally, I need to have times in my day or in my schedule that I can do nothing so that I can recover. If I don't plan for that, I will burn out. And I have to allow myself to do that so that I can be consistent with the other things. And so if I don't, that was something that came with trial and error, that why am I burning out at the end of the week? Is it because I'm taking on too much? No, you're not taking on too much. You didn't actually plan appropriately for your emotional and physical well-being. And so then the problem wasn't that I was doing too much, it was managing everything else across the system. Maybe it's the timing. I know that if I don't do my Quran or my adhkar in the morning, I'm not going to do it. I know that if I don't put a sibha in my car, I'm going to be lazy, I probably won't do it. I need to have it around the gear shifter so I see it when I come in. You know what, I didn't do my adhkar, I'm going to do it every single time. I need to set up systems that help me be consistent with those things. And if I'm falling short, we need to assess where and why are we falling short to figure out how it is that we can adjust those things. But again, if we're talking about something that is obligatory for us to do, that shouldn't be something that we just say, well, inshallah. No, it should be something that we take very, very seriously, and that we try to figure out how we can reprioritize it to do that thing.
So you mentioned this idea of having grace with ourselves. How do I develop that? Because I think for many of us, it can be really challenging, especially, so I keep making these goals and I just keep not making them. So what's going on in my thought process, and what is a way for me to kind of gain perspective so that I can increase that grace with myself?
I think first we have to recognize that we live in an era that is incredibly superficial. It's incredibly materialistic. And so the superficiality with the materialism makes us think that we can have instant gratification whenever we want. And so because we can't achieve what we want when we want it, it makes us feel like we are less than. When, as we're talking about building habits, most things happen over a long period of time. Most things are something that you build up to. On top of the superficiality, on top of the instant gratification, what we see projected on social media, as we were talking about the other day, oftentimes is curated. It's fake. It's not the reality. So now we're having negative reinforcements by what we're seeing from other people, when in reality, they're not actually doing that thing as well. So you have to realize that al-kamalu lillah, perfection is only for God. Excuse me. And if we're constantly... So I think there's two different things. I think if we need to be gracious with ourselves, that's healthier self-talk. That's recognizing what our strengths and our weaknesses. Maybe I have the wrong goals altogether, and I need to reprioritize on what my goals are. But also, I lost the second thing. SubhanAllah. The first thing is be gracious with ourselves and recognizing where our priorities should be. But second thing is that it's gone. Oh well, Qadr Allah. It was a good point too, I swear. So yeah, we just need to recognize who we are and where our priorities are, and then figure out why are we always making these problems.
Yeah.
Why do we keep falling short? Because I think. I remember it this time. I'm trying to say it in a nice way.
We're in our own head.
Not just are we in our own head, we're really lazy.
Yeah.
I think that's our other issue. That we set these goals, but we think they're supposed to just happen.
Yeah.
We don't have to put in effort. And then we get mad because we don't want to put in effort, and like we have like this narcissism, entitlement.
So that's what I was going to say. Like, yeah. If a person keeps setting those lofty goals, then I think there's a huge element of ego there.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes what we do is we set unrealistic goals for ourselves, knowing that we're going to fail, right? Because we're scared of actually trying to build, right? It's easier to be like, oh, I couldn't do it. Instead of setting smaller, more realistic goals and actually building up to it, that fear of, what's a good way to put it? Knowing that I tried and failed and I actually should have been able to achieve it, versus setting something so lofty, knowing that I never could. So there is an element of laziness there. I think there's an element of ego there. And not just that, if I'm staying in my own head and I keep setting these goals, who am I discussing with?
Yeah. I think we need to differentiate. We get to the suhbah part as well. I think we need to differentiate between aspirations and goals. It's one thing to have aspirations. I aspire to be wealthy. I aspire to have a big impact on the community. The goal should be, what steps am I taking, perhaps in a 10-year, 20-year plan, to achieve that thing that I aspire towards. The problem is, I don't think we differentiate between those two, and the aspirations become the goals, and because they're so big, then we get overwhelmed, because that's really, a lot of times I find that 20-year-olds put the burden of 40-year-olds on themselves. So I need to have a job and have 6 figures, I need to be married, I need to do all these different things. Like, bro, you are 20 years old. Those should not be goals for you right now. We need to build to that. And then to your point, who are we talking to about these things? You know, we are the sum of the 5 people that we keep around us. And الْمَرْءُ عَلَى دِينِ خَلِيلِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ إِلَى مَنْ يُخَالِلُ. The believers upon the religion of their close companions, so look to whom you make your close companions. And who you make, really the word in Arabic is you beloved. Those that you love, you're connected to in that deep level. And so when you have these goals, are these goals that you're talking to people about, that you are seeing? I'll share a story. When I first got to Mecca, Sheikh Farhan and I had a friend who I told that I wanted to study in the College of Law, the hardest department in our school. And he looked at me and he snickered. What's the word? He laughed at me.
Snickered is right.
Snickered is right. Okay. He was like, Abdul Malik, you're not going to law. And I was like, you're such a hater, bro. How dare you say that I'm not going to law? I can do it. I didn't finish the Arabic program at that point. So you're such a hater. He's like, Abdul Malik, I know you. I'm already in the College of Sharia. You're not going to law. I was like, you'll see. I'm telling you. I went to Da'wah, which is easier than Sharia, which was less than law. One, I was not passionate about law, nor did I have the desire or commitment level required to study law in that context. And he was giving me advice that was really pertinent to me. So because I had good friends, he wasn't being a hater. He was actually in Sharia. He may have gone to law, I don't know, later on. But he was saying, no, Abdul Malik, that's an unrealistic goal for you. That advice, I remember to actually talk to him about it later because it was very real, very practical. When I actually switched from Sharia to Dawah, I talked to Sheikh Farhan. I was like, bro, I'm dying here in this department. It absolutely sucks. He's like, maybe you should do Dawah. My ego was like, nah, Dawah is like the weak department. He was like, you should probably do Dawah. There are some teachers there that you'll like. There's some subjects that you'll like. I think that's a better fit for you. Alhamdulillah. I was really happy for the most part. And I really enjoyed Dawah. But it was because I was able to talk to good friends that knew me. So we had a sustained and built relationship, that were honest with me, that I was able to be vulnerable with, to hear what they're actually trying to say. In both cases, it was really difficult for me, but it was advice that I needed to hear at the time. So we need to see who are our friends, who are the people that we're talking to, what are we talking to them about, and how are these people involved in building consistency in the goals that we're making.
I guess another point also is that our aspirations should be empowering, right?
Yeah.
So if I have aspirations and I find that all they're doing is paralyzing me, then I think that, like, there needs to be an ego check at that point.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm doing something and it's leading to a pity party, there's a big problem there. Versus, okay, I didn't do well here, it's time for me to pivot, right? So when I talk about being empowering, that's what that means. That I should be able to pivot with whatever my aspirations are, and sometimes adjustments are necessary. Just like Abdul had aspirations, right? Like, this is what he wanted to do, and he was like, you know what? I need to match my aspirations with my ability, and that requires humility, right? And that, I think that's what hurts.
Yeah.
And speaking of pivoting, well, I mean, we spent a lot of time on building good habits and what that should look like. Right. What about bad habits? How do I break those?
You know, it's funny. That's a wonderful segue to what I was actually thinking about. We can become addicted to failing because of the tension that comes with it, because of the feeling that at least I tried. We can find a bunch of different ways that failing actually becomes something. The bad habits that we've created become a coping mechanism that we've gotten used to, because there's a lot of attention that comes with failing. There's a lot of support that may come with failing. You see this in lower income areas, et cetera, trauma survivors, et cetera. So when we're talking about breaking bad habits, the same thing needs to apply, but in inverse, that we need to build good habits. What do I mean by that? If we have bad habits, we first need to start with some level of muhasabah. What am I doing? What has led me to this habit? Ideally, what is the deeper level reason that's causing me to do this thing? So I need to make an assessment of where I'm at, so then I can start to figure out, well, what do I need to change in order to break this bad habit? Rome was not conquered in a day. It's going to require consistent, persistent, long dedication to something, to not just break a habit, but create new habits around that thing that take the place of the old one. So let's use our cell phones, for example. You know, I have one of my friends, he sent me tonight, every couple weeks he sends me a new like e-screen dumb phone. This is the one, bro. We get this phone, it's got WhatsApp on it. With this, I won't have any distractions on it. And I'm like, I actually like Instagram. It's a way that I can like unplug from the world. It's a way that I'm not mad. You know, my score plays pretty clean.
And the memes are amazing.
The memes are hilarious. He's like, no, I need this dumb phone that's going to fix my problems. I'm like, you're just going to find new habits in a different way.
Absolutely.
So it won't be Instagram, it'll be Twitter or X. It'll be Substack. You're going to find something. What we need to figure out is, I just said, I'm okay with Instagram. So I don't need to create a new habit. If you're not okay, what are you replacing that with? Which is, I'm trying to fill my empty time. I'm trying to unplug. I'm trying to whatever that is. What is a healthier way of dealing with that thing?
So what do you think about embracing the bad habit? Not in the sense that, I think this is good, but embracing, because some of them it's like, okay, well, being on social media is very subjective, right?
Yep.
So a lot of people be like, social media is really bad and blah, blah, blah. Okay, what if I love social media? Like, is it, if I have that sense of awareness that I enjoy, I love social media, does that help? And if we're looking at a subjectively bad habit, right? So, and when we say bad here in a Shara'i sense, we're talking about something that is
haram.
Haram. And how will it help me in that space?
Yeah. if something is subjectively bad, let's use the same issue of social media, and I enjoy social media. طيب, how can I use it for good? The fact that I love it I have a friend, a good friend of ours, we're trying to get him married, but the sister won't marry him. Anyways, I digress. Who loves the arts, audio, visual, he loves service, he loves these things, and from the background that he's from, that doesn't make a lot of money, and it is not very praiseworthy. And his mom's like, you need to go to IT. You need to just get you a job that is IT. He's like, I love the arts, so I'm gonna try to find a way to make money in the arts. How can I serve my teachers with these arts? How can I create better content? He's now created a media company. They're getting clientele. They're trying to figure out, well, I love media so much, I'm gonna use it another way. We had a friend who was actually studying overseas with us at the time. He would never admit it, but we know that's what he was doing. Before practicing, he was a sound engineer. He made music for rappers and stuff like that. So he got to Jam Islamiyah in Medina, and he needed to find a way to provide for his family.
Yo, he was making beats.
He was making beats. I swear to God, he was making beats, bro. He had all the equipment. He was like, no, bro. But he's got all this money. He's from poor family. Like, bro, you got a car. You got this big behind apartment. You making beats.
And he didn't sell his sound equipment.
All the equipment was, not only did he not sell it, it was front and center on his desk. It was like, bro, you making beats. But he only made beats. So we can, argue halal, haram. He only made beats. And he just sold those instead of now being in the booth with whoever he was in the booth with, right? Yeah. And so if you have something that is a subjective bad habit that you enjoy doing, how do you find a way to make that something positive? There's a sister, Adams, mashallah, she loves to travel. So one could argue, oh, you spend too much time traveling, you waste too much money on travel. So now she's found a way to make a travel company that helps other people have experiences in their travel. She's taken something that could be subjectively bad, the amount of time, the amount of investment, etc., it's become good. You find ways to, and we could use that in any example. So how, if it's subjectively bad, is it bad? No. How can we turn that into a good thing? I think another part of that is, why do we enjoy that? Is it the thing itself or is it part of it? So maybe it's not that we enjoy social media, we like art, and we like creativity. And so maybe I can take those things and turn it to something different. That's how I got into writing. You and I talked about this all the time. I had critiques of the world that I wanted to do, and I had academic training. I was like, all right, I don't really like writing. It's really hard for me, but I want to put these thoughts somewhere. So let's put them somewhere. And now I've convinced myself that I enjoy writing. And so I actually enjoy writing. And it's changed many different ways, but I had critiques and I have training. Let's find a way to merge those two together in a way that's productive.
So that's what's subjectively bad. What about things that are haram? What if somebody is a perpetual liar, right? Or somebody enjoys backbiting or tail carrying, or maybe things that are worse. What can that person do to break those bad habits?
I think what we're talking about in both of these things is that we just need to be real. We need to be honest with ourselves and recognize whether it's subjective or objective, whether it's potentially impermissible or definitely impermissible. We need to be honest with ourselves, because there's no changing something that we're consistently either lying to ourselves or making excuses about. Once we recognize that something is objectively haram, now I need to make a plan to stop doing whatever it is that I'm doing. How is it that I'm going to stop doing? Now, perhaps some of us have the discipline or the resolve, to stop this thing cold turkey. That is going to be subjective from person to person. And not only is it person to person, it'll be based on the level of thing. I wasn't connected to that too, so khalas, that doesn't really matter. Maybe it's a part of my identity. And so it's a part of who I am, and change it's going to be really, really difficult. We need to figure out what the thing is and then make a plan to stop doing that thing.
So when it comes to that plan, you had mentioned that one pathway is cold turkey. What does the other pathway look like?
Gradual.
Okay. Or let me ask a different question. There's gradually me stopping something, right? So I'm trying to scale into abandoning. And I guess another potential pathway is removing the means that give me access to that habit.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Funny story. I love stories. One of my teachers, he was studying at Al-Hijrah, and I've told the story plenty of times, so I'm sorry if you've already heard it. He went to go visit his friend, and when he got to the front door of the downstairs of the building, he saw a laptop fly off the balcony. And so when he got there, he's like, was that your apartment? He was like, yeah, man, there's too much fitting on this thing, man, I had to get rid of it. That's extreme. You don't need to like get rid of your laptop. But we need to recognize what are some of the things what are the reasons why we're doing this thing. You get on your phone and it automatically goes to a website that you had no business being on. Why are you now going to that website? Is this an addiction? Are you lonely? Are you just bored? And if it's addiction, then you need to work on breaking that addiction. Are you lonely? Fill your time talking to friends. Fill your time doing things that are beneficial. Are you bored? The same thing applies. Go find things you're actually interested in that are going to be good for you and do that. We have to figure out what it is. And maybe you have too much access. When I'm studying, maybe I need to lock my phone up, maybe to give it to someone else. Maybe I need to put restrictions on it for myself that remind me not to do those things. Maybe I need to put up artwork, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around my room that are on my phone every 10 minutes. Like, are you fearing Allah? Like, we need to be creative to put things that become barriers for us to stop doing haram. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to become conditioned where that thing becomes normalized.
So some people, they like accountability partners, right? Like whether it be their spouse or whether they be friends. Some people, they create these barriers, like you had mentioned. What if a person has these in place and he's still having issues, still having problems?
لا تيأسوا من روح الله. Do not give up in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know someone that was addicted to a very impermissible thing for over a decade. And it took years of consistently feeling guilty, consistently working on it, till they got to a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed that thing from their heart altogether. And because it was addiction, that doesn't mean they can't fall into it. That means that now it's been removed and they have an opportunity to go on a different path. And so if you find yourself, you just can't break the habit, it's very difficult. Remember, this thing is a bad habit. This thing is objectively haram. And don't forget that. And keep a hatred, you should feel guilty about that thing. You should feel
Remorse.
Jazakumullah khair. You should feel remorse for doing that thing. And as long as you have remorse, inshallah, the doors of tawbah are open. 3 conditions of tawbah: remorse, repentance, and resolve. You feel bad for it, you ask Allah to forgive you, and resolve to never do it again. If you do it again, you keep doing it. We have the hadith, the person keeps doing it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, says that I've forgiven this person. This is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that someone will keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've forgiven them. Does that mean they can give up? No, they have to keep trying, but that shows sincerity in their intentions. So if you have something that is just overwhelming, you can't find a way to break it, etc., keep the remorse there, keep feeling the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there, and then keep working. Gradually, lessen it. You can't stop. You went from, I don't know, every single day to now every other day. It's, how can you lessen whatever that thing is, while simultaneously keeping the remorse? And as long as we're trying, inshallah khair.
I would add, to the remorse aspect of it, if I'm feeling remorse, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is still descending upon me.
Absolutely.
Right? Just imagine if I ever reach a point where I stop feeling that remorse. It's at that point Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed His mercy from me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. So I think, look at that remorse in 2 ways, right? Having that remorse is good, right? That I'm upset that I committed the sin and I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have engaged in that way. But also, having a little bit of happiness in that moment is okay, in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounty still is descending upon me.
Yeah.
Right? That Allah He still cares enough for me to remind me and to give me that prick of remorse, so that I can use that as a means to really catalyst me into a good direction.
Just to add on to that, I think because we live in this, again, materialistic, instant gratification society where we're looking for perfection, we want to be the best version of ourselves, and the way that best version looks is like the sheikh, the prophet, the saint, the righteous person. It looks like us be doing all of these things, perhaps through our remorse, perhaps through feeling bad. We have such a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have more sincerity than the one who's actually standing up here right now. Ibn Ata'illah al-Iskandari talks about that perhaps the sin that someone does creates such a remorse in them and a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can actually be more reward than the good deed that someone else does is full of arrogance. And so how we look at these deeds should always be through a lens of connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That doesn't mean we stop or we give up. We don't try to remove that thing. But as Shaykh Farhan mentioned, it's an opportunity to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's still an opportunity. The fact that we have that remorse in our heart is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing us for something different where then we no longer have that anymore. Again, the lens should always be how are we connecting to Allah. That doesn't mean we don't try to stop it, but it doesn't mean that we are not worthy of change. That doesn't mean we're not worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. That doesn't mean that we are unworthy people in general. We always have the opportunity to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the fact that we feel bad is a gift in and of itself. Look at how many people, Muslim and non-Muslim, have no remorse for things. The worst things. Fornication, murder, etc. No guilt, no nothing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to be someone who still desires to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased.
As you were speaking, you reminded me of two stories. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with them. Do you guys know the story of the prostitute who went into the well?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody whose entire earning was haram. Somebody who time and time again was committing these haram, impermissible acts. And subhanAllah, all it took was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept one remorse, like one piece of remorse from her. Just imagine, and all of us, that's what we're all trying for, right? We all are seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And it could be in anything that we do. And just imagine the smallest act that maybe for us, something small, insignificant, Allah decides to take that and make it our means into paradise. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the people of paradise. Ameen. The other example I was thinking of, and again, something I'm sure all of you are familiar with, the man who killed 100 people, right? 100. He took 100 lives. He took 100 rights. And even this person was allowed entry into paradise. And he didn't even do all that, right? He didn't even get anyone any water. He didn't help anyone. All he did was ask. And he just started his journey.
Mm-hmm.
He just started his journey to Tawbah. And even then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted from him. And it reminds me of the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's statement. And it's so beautiful. He says, وَكَانَ سَعْيُكُمْ مَشْكُورًا.
Mm-hmm.
He said that your efforts are appreciated. And sometimes we want to see, we want to see the fruits of our labor, and which is completely understandable. But we don't have to worry about that all the time. Because sometimes we will see those fruits,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes we won't.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have to make that effort.
Absolutely. Sometimes we won't see the fruits until like a decade later.
Sometimes after our death.
Sometimes after we die.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, SubhanAllah. Like, we don't know the impact of the deeds that we're doing. Nor should we really be concerned with it. Like, yeah, we prioritize and we try to do the best thing possible and we try to set ourselves up to have the biggest level of impact and barakah and all those things, but like, that's in the control of the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't have control over that. All I have control over is my sincerity and my effort. I'm sure you've seen it, dude, like 10 years later, 15 years later, that thing that you had no clue why you invested in it, why you did it, now it reaps rewards. That you're like, wait, what? Or the thing that you chose to leave off, that later on brings you something. I mean, that's the fact that we studied, dude. Like, it made no sense. But like, Saudis would come to us. I know they came to you, but like, they came to me and be like, wait, you're an American? And you came here to study? Like, we try and go there. Why are you? I remember I was in a cab one time with a dude who had a little bottle, like a mini bottle of water, and was drinking the entire cab ride. I didn't realize until he dropped me off. And he's telling me all the zina that he's committing and all the bad things that he's doing. He's telling me, like, proudly, sipping alcohol the whole time. And he's like, you're an American? You came here? I'm trying to go there. Matter of fact, let me tell you about all the bad that I'm doing. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose us? It made no sense.
So we used to attend Abdul Rahman Ajlan's dars.
Allah yarhamah.
He passed away.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah yarham. And I remember I was sitting in the dars, I was taking notes, and this guy turns to me and he's like, where are you from? I was like, I'm American. He was like, Anta Muslim? And I was like, Yahi, I prayed next to you. I'm sitting down. I'm taking notes of this class. I was like, what do you think?
I had worse.
Huh?
I had worse.
You had worse.
I'm sitting in the haram. looking at the Kaaba.
By the way, his dars was in the haram.
Yeah, his dars in the haram. Sit in the haram, looking at the Kaaba, reading Quran. He's like, Anta min ween? Where are you from? I was like, America. He's like, are you Muslim? And I looked at the Quran. I looked at Kaaba. I looked at Quran. I looked at Kaaba. I was like what? Are you serious, bro? I had a cab driver. We had a long cab ride together because we were both lost. I didn't know where I was going. He was trying to take me somewhere. And he was like, where are you from, America? He was like, you need to get out my car. I was like, bro, like, I'm Muslim. He was like, oh, okay. Like, why are we talking about this? We don't know the fruits of our labor. We don't know. SubhanAllah, we were just talking, like, the fact that we're blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have gone overseas when it did not make sense to anyone, to our families in many cases, to us throughout the entire, there was no problem. I went bald worried about how I'm going to take care of my family. Like, no clue what the future is going to hold. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then shows you, well, and 80% of what we study does not benefit in this specific context.
SubhanAllah.
But yet, through the experiences, the collection of those things, that one dars we heard, whatever, we're able to give it to you. That's not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that we would be used as a tool in that way. It's not because we're special, that's all Allah. So the same thing goes for building habits and breaking habits. Our job is to be sincere and to be committed and to do it as best as possible. If we can do that, وَكَانَ سَعْيُكُمْ مَشْكُورًا.
In talking about these small deeds, subhanAllah, I remember every time I make tawaf, I always make sure I make the dua between Rukn Yamani and Hajar Aswad. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. And wallahi, I promise that every year my situation improved.
Yep.
Today, until today. Until today. And this is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing. And it's such a small thing. Like even the amount of time, like because we lived in Makkah at a time where it wasn't really busy. Like
The good old days.
We call them the good old days, right? We were able to finish an entire tawaf and 2 rak'ah in under 15 minutes.
Yep.
We would judge how busy the Kaaba was if whether we could see the rings of the Kaaba or not. That's how we judged it. This is how empty it was. And subhanAllah, Allah gave us an opportunity time and time again. And I truly believe, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless myself, to bless all of those here, to bless our families, that small, simple, consistent dua have long-reaching and long-lasting effects. Questions?
Yeah, questions.
Yes? No?
You have 15 more minutes.
We have 15 more minutes?
Should we talk for 15
You wanna
minutes or we do
talk for 15
Q&A for 15 minutes?
5 more minutes stopped and then.
Okay, خلاص.
Inshallah. حاضر. You know, subhanAllah, I've told this story before, but I'll say it again. There was a time, when we were first starting out in Mecca, particularly after we got married, we weren't that wealthy. And the work circumstances were very inconsistent, so there'd be times where you'd be scared, like, am I gonna have more meat? And I remember, subhanAllah, we used to take our meat, because we get it in bulk, like a whole lamb or something, and put it in little grocery bags. Small bags so that you could take out one part, defrost it, and eat that. So one time I looked in the freezer and there was like 1 or 2 bags left. And I told my wife, like, yo, we don't have money to buy more meat, so we're gonna eat like lentils or something until we get some more money. And so my wife took it and cooked it and gave it to our illegal immigrant Afghan neighbors in our building. I was like, what the hell are you doing? I just told you we ain't got no money. Like, this does not make sense. She was like, inshallah khair. And I was like, no, like, we have to be practical about this. How can we stretch this meat? Like, make some soup that we're gonna last a long bit of time. How do we stretch it? She's like, no, inshallah khair. Wallahi. Within a week, what were the Maldivian guys?
Oh.
Imad and...
Imad and... oh man, I forgot.
I wish I know his name. Anyways, he called me. I'd be like, are you home? Yeah, come downstairs. Why? Just come downstairs. Why? Bro, come downstairs. All right, cool. Come downstairs. Here's a whole dhabiha. A whole lamb.
MashaAllah.
This happened multiple times.
SubhanAllah.
A neighbor who I didn't know. Abdul Malik, yes. And my phone, I would not pick up numbers I didn't know. Oh, let me pick up this one. He's called 2-3 times. Abdul Malik, yes. What are you doing? Taking a nap. Are you home? Yes, come downstairs. Why? Just come downstairs. Okay, here's a box with oil and rice and vegetables and everything lasts you a month. What is this for? For the people of the neighborhood. Bismillah. Who organized it? Don't worry, just take it. We don't know where. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you in ways you could never imagine. So our job when we're talking about building habits is to be consistent with those habits, like the man who killed 100 people, to make a sincere intention and to try to set off on that journey, and you don't know where the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to come. Another story. I made Hajj one year, and the reason why I made Hajj was to work. Shafi'ir, yeah. I made Hajj, and this is the first time and the only time I worked as a Hajj guide. And the reason why I worked as a Hajj guide, because I needed money to pay my rent. The money from the Hajj was going to pay rent for 6 months. The last day of Hajj, after we finished making Hajj, the last day of the Hujjaj were in Mecca, the Hajj company, the owners, disappeared. They're like, Assalamu alaikum, we're going to leave. Don't worry, we're going to take care of everyone. Don't worry, Assalamu alaikum. And it wasn't just me, it's all the other guys from Mecca that are working. They disappeared. Sorry, something happened, blah, blah, blah. How am I going to make money? How am I going to pay my rent? I don't know what I'm going to do. One of the guys that happened to be with me on the Hajj worked at a non-profit organization that gave out zakat. And for the first time, I had to ask for zakat. I was like, bro, I don't know how to pay rent. They took advantage of me. And can you help me? Like, I just need a loan so I can pay my rent. He's like, how much were you supposed to get paid? I was like, $6,000. He said, here's $6,000. I paid my rent. Alhamdulillah, 6 months gone. 6 months go by. Abdul Malik, are you in Mecca? Yeah, I'm in Mecca. Come here. I don't want to talk to you anymore. It's the Hajj guy. Come meet me for dinner. I don't want to talk to you, man. You screwed me over. No, come. I came. What's up, bro? Here's your $6,000. My bad. Matter of fact, here's extra 500. I'm so sorry. What happened? We had a situation. You should have been, whatever. So now I have the 6,000 that I took as a loan. I call the guy back. Bro, I have your money. Can I give it to you? La, khalas. It was a gift. MashaAllah. From that Hajj, I got a year's rent, not 6 months. I got a year's rent. Allah provided for me a year that came through heartbreak. How could they do this to me the first year? These are religious Muslims graduated from universities. How could they do this to me? What about all the other people, etc., etc., etc.? What ended up happening is that I had a year's work. Our job is to commit. Our job is to work, and Allah will provide.
Like, we have so many stories, dude.
So many stories.
Like
Story time.
Hold on.
No, I mean, like, people just walk, like, and this is something both of us have experienced, and we're not alone in this. People just walking up to us with envelopes, giving us money.
Yep.
Like, oh, you're students, you're from overseas, here you go. Mm-hmm. It's like, subhanAllah, it's so amazing.
The reason why we're telling these stories, I think that we need to tie this together. The reason why we're telling you these stories is because we all have stories. I don't care how old you are or what the uniqueness of your experiences are. You have things in your life that if you're to be honest and reflect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for you in a unique way. Those should be bookmarks in the story of your life. Things that when times are difficult, you say, no, Allah took care of me that one time. I wasn't supposed to make it out of it. I was supposed to be in a car accident. My family, because of my family situation, I should be either addicted to drugs or dead somewhere. I should be in a refugee camp somewhere. It was because one person randomly applied for a visa to come to America, and they just happened to say, whatever, throw it in there. Now you're raised in America. Your entire family's back home somewhere. We all have these experiences. How do we use them to remember Allah is Ar-Razzaq? How do we use them to create new habits? Allah took care of me then, I need to work harder. I'm worried about this. Nah, don't worry about it. Don't even create bad habits, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got me.
Well, not just that. You're worried about, yeah, you're worried about it. Well, hasn't Allah been taking care of me up until now?
Yep.
Like, Allah's not going to do a rug pull. That's not how He is, Azza wa Jal. Right? He's infinitely merciful, and if He's allowed me to be successful this far, then He will continue giving me that blessing and allowing me to be successful in the future.
Yep. Q&A.
Now we can do questions. Yes. Are we people submitting them or just raise hands? Okay. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask now. And if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. But I'm pretty sure we have some. I knew, I felt it. No, but Omar, I could feel it.
I always have questions.
No, this time I felt it. I like, you know what I mean? I looked and I was like, alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's felt
Two, not one, two.
Number one, right? You guys both talked a lot about like building good habits, curbing bad habits. What do you guys think the role of Ramadan is in our lives when it comes to like building those good habits or getting rid of bad habits? Can we ask the second question now to
Sure, go ahead. Sure.
The second question is
so we can forget it.
the second question is you guys both also talked about like the people around you and like making sure that you have good company and everything, but also especially when it comes to like setting goals and like setting aspirations and everything, there's also the aspect of like atimu hawaijakum bil kitman. So how do you draw the balance between kitman, moving in silence, or like not telling everybody your business and making sure that you're getting the support and like having that like those accountability partners in your community and whatnot?
I have been, this Ramadan specifically, trying to change my perspective of Ramadan. In previous years, Ramadan for me was the championship. I need to exhaust all my means, leave it all in the field, so that I can do the best Ramadan possible. The problem with that perspective is that if you're looking at Ramadan from that, once Eid comes, you left it. The championship is over, the season's over, khalas, you're done. I've changed it this year to thinking about Ramadan as an aid station. It's a place to replenish, it's a place to nourish, so that we can recharge for the rest of our journey. And I think that's a far healthier way to think about it.
Is that after you bought the Tesla?
Ironically, yes, but and so how do we, because our life still goes on. We still have to continue to build. We still have to continue to move on. If we only use Ramadan as a time that we're going to leave it all there, but then we go to the rest of our, then okay, inshallah, it works on our scale of deeds, but it doesn't help us to continue to grow. And so I like to use Ramadan as an aid station, but also as a time that we can set to see our potential. This is a time when the shayateen are locked up. We're doing stuff that we don't ever see ourselves doing. Like, I read half the Quran. What? You read half the Quran? When are you ever doing that in 1 month's period of time throughout the rest of the year? That shows that you have potential to do it. طيب. How can we scale back considering the shayateen are back? How can we scale back considering that our life is not going to be the same, they're not faster, barakah has gone down, except whatever, but so that we can continue to move forward. And the ideal is that inshallah, every Ramadan, we're increasing on that. Do you want to comment on that for the next question?
Sure. So I would just add, like, I like the metaphor of like a recharge station. I also like the springboard metaphor, where Ramadan is a springboard, right? I step into Ramadan so it can spring me into becoming better and carry me into the next Ramadan, so that I'm ready for that next level and that next level of growth.
As far as when do you talk about goals or not talk about goals, that's going to be subjective based on every person, based from person to person. I think what's important to do is talk to people who, one, you trust, and two, they actually have the ability to aid you in that. There's no point in talking about things to haters or people you know are going to, anyways, evil eye, but like people who don't want good for you, right? Don't talk to them about those things. True G's move in silence, like lasagna. So don't talk to the haters about it, but then also be purposeful in why you're talking about it. It's one thing for me to just like show up, yo, Chef Farhan, I got this new situation, I'm about to make all this money, you know what I'm saying? It's really, really amazing, I'm about to be rich. Do you have that? No, okay, alhamdulillah, well, I'm rich, don't worry about it, right? That would be really dumb. But if I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, do you have any nasiha for me? You've experienced something similar to that. What worked best for you? I want to do this. How do you think that works for my situation? We're talking about it for a purpose. Or if it's, I think to a lesser extent, if it's someone who genuinely wants good for you, you're sharing the goodness so they can encourage you. You got this. The accountability partner, the encouragement, etc.
I think that statement has more to do with naivety.
Yeah.
Right? I don't share everything that I'm doing with everyone, but I am willing to share everything that I'm doing with someone. Does that make sense? Because there are some people who genuinely want good for me, and there's nothing wrong with me. And not just that, I should share with them, because when I'm vulnerable with those people, it's easier for them to be vulnerable with me. But it doesn't make sense to be vulnerable with a stranger. No. Right? You know, it's like, hey, I got this going on, blah, blah, because you don't know if this person has goodwill toward you or he has malicious intent. right? He might try to undermine me, he might try to hurt me, he might try to take advantage of me, but people who I know intend well, yeah, obviously, I should confide in them. I should talk to them. Also, I think there are layers to some of these things. So as an institution, for example, if there's a program that I'm planning, I shouldn't share that with competing institutions until I have something locked in. Why? Because they're not doing it out of malicious intent that they're going to take the program. They're going to do it because they're competing with you, right? So if I have competition, the competition always wants to one-up their competition, right? So if I have a business, I have an institution, whatever the case might be, once it's like 70, 80% done, share it, right? There's nothing wrong with sharing it at that point because there's no way they're going to catch up. I also need to keep in mind that, all right, if I'm sharing certain things, I need to learn to let go of ideas. I've had a few individuals like, oh man, you know, this person started this, you know, I gave him the idea. It's like, okay, make dua for him. Right? Okay, you gave him that idea. You clearly weren't able to do it, right? You clearly weren't able to execute.
Tawfiq.
Right? You know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and increase him. Like, why are you hating?
One of our friends is a multimillionaire. I put him on.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. I'm glad. I gave him the connection.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. Yeah. And
it wasn't written for me.
And sometimes it's like that, right? Like you'll connect certain people or you give certain ideas. We have to think that in their success is also mine, right? Because I'm raising the waterline now. And that person becoming a multimillionaire or whatever the case might be, well, you know what? I know who to reach out to. And may Allah bless and increase them. At the end of the day, usually, people don't forget who helped them. People don't forget where they came from. Sometimes they do, right? Sometimes they do. But in general, if people are good, and walillah alhamd, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us all in this. And I remember people who specifically and pointedly have made dua for me. I remember people who've given me rides. I remember people who've given me money. I remember people who put me up in hotels when I didn't know where I was going to stay. Like, subhanAllah, I remember people who've come, like when I'm fighting with my wife, to come and intercede and be like, yo, listen, Farhan, you're this is too much. You need to control yourself. Because these are people that care for me. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless them, to bless their families, to continue to bless them. Like, like I said, and I say this time and again, Allah has always surrounded me with amazing people. And that's not because of me. I know that 100%. For how difficult and abrasive I am, it truly is amazing the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounds me with. Whether they be my friends, whether they be my family, whether they be my children. I know I'm not deserving. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq. Okay. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this gathering. We ask Him Azza wa Jal to allow us to utilize what remains of this blessed month. We ask Him Azza wa Jal to truly make it as a recharge station, at that springboard, to allow us to become better Muslims in this life. And we ask Him Azza wa Jal to allow us and make us a means of entry into His paradise. Yeah. We ask Him Azza wa Jal to allow us to look upon and to drink from the beloved and blessed hand of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to allow us to look upon him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to allow us to look upon him Azza wa Jal. We ask Him Azza wa Jal to continue to bless us in these gatherings, to allow such beloved and blessed programming, to bless our beloved mashayikh who come and participate with us, to bless their families, and to bless all of those that are here and who support these institutions and the Muslim institutions as a whole. We ask Him Azza wa Jal to make us all vehicles of good and allow us to empower others and to empower ourselves. Ameen. Wa jazakumullah khair.